Donald Trump may have made a huge mistake, and it just might help Democrats win Texas for the first time in 30 years. Trump has been treating this year's midterm Republican primaries as a sort of revenge tour, endorsing against sitting lawmakers who have publicly slighted him in the past. Trump-backed challengers have won in almost all of their high-profile races, but in Texas, he may have gone too far. By endorsing a deeply flawed Senate candidate against the wishes of sitting Republican senators, Trump may have paved the way for a young, populist rising star to become the first Democratic senator for Texas this century. And his secret weapon is a unique brand of politics, drawing from a 100-year-old movement that could be the key to liberals winning in the South. James Talarico is a progressive Democrat who quotes the Bible, not the parts about social issues, but the parts about loving your neighbor and caring for the vulnerable. His ability to blend his faith with center-left politics has helped him win back many Catholic Latino voters who swung toward Trump in 2024, and he's even winning over some traditional Republicans. Talarico's political style is a throwback to the social gospel movement of the 1900s, which influenced people like Franklin Roosevelt and Martin Luther King Jr. Back then, some preachers spoke out against what they saw as the social ills of urban inequality, things like poverty, homelessness, and alcoholism. They saw the poor conditions of the working class as a moral issue that churches needed to help solve, both through their own actions and by influencing the government. They weren't left-wing ideologues. Their beliefs didn't come from socialism, they came from the Bible. Social gospelers wanted to bring about the kingdom of heaven on earth, making things more comfortable for people during their mortal lives. They allied with populist farmers, suffragettes, and unions to launch the progressive era, which brought in child labor laws, gave women the right to vote, and broke up big businesses. Talarico fits the center-left populism of many old-style social gospelers, as he talks about fighting bottom versus top rather than left versus right. The closest thing we have to the kingdom of heaven, says James Talarico, is a multiracial, multicultural democracy. A multiracial, multicultural coalition is exactly what Talarico needs to win in a state as diverse as Texas, and it could be his biggest challenge. Many old-style 1900s progressives, especially those in the South, had major blind spots on race, and while they understood many of the issues facing urban workers, the social gospelers and progressive farmers mostly did so from an outsider's perspective. Now, Talarico is from the Austin area, so he's obviously better than that, but he won a pretty heated Democratic primary, mostly thanks to support from white and Latino voters. Meanwhile, the predominantly black Democratic base, concentrated in Dallas and Houston, voted mostly for his competitor, Jasmine Crockett. While Talarico wanted to expand the Democratic coalition, Crockett argued that the key to victory was boosting turnout among those solid blue voters. In reality, James Talarico needs to do both to win. Texas has been a red state pretty much since the 70s. Even if he's popular, Talarico needs everything to go right in order to flip this seat. Luckily for him, Donald Trump may have made things just a little easier. Back in 2024, Texas seemed as far away as it had ever been for the Democrats. Just 6 years after Beto O'Rourke came within 2 points of flipping the state's other Senate seat, Donald Trump carried Texas by a 14-point margin over Kamala Harris. He did it by making huge gains among Latino voters, now the single largest group in the state and historically Democratic leaning. That almost led to Trump carrying one of the Democrats' stronghold regions, Latino-majority South Texas. But Trump's inaction on the cost of living crisis and his deeply unpopular deportation agenda have led to a huge swing against Republicans among Latino voters nationwide. And Talarico is well positioned to take advantage of what could be a blue wave election. Then, of course, there's the deeply flawed Republican candidate that Trump chose to face him. On the night that Talarico won the Democratic primary, the Republican primary went to a runoff between its top 2 candidates, incumbent Senator John Cornyn and former Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. Cornyn was an establishment Republican who had previously called Trump unelectable, while Paxton was a MAGA true believer. But Ken Paxton's political career has been mired in scandal, and he was even impeached by Texas's Republican State House on corruption charges. He is not very popular among the Texas general electorate, and Senate Republicans warned that he was more likely to lose, especially against Talarico. To the surprise of many, Cornyn actually beat Paxton in the first round, even though Paxton was popular with the MAGA base. With that strong showing, Senate Republicans ramped up their pressure on Trump to get it over with and endorse Cornyn. Then Paxton suggested he might not concede, even if Trump asked him to, and it reportedly made Trump angrily move even closer to endorsing Cornyn. But at the last minute, Paxton found a way out. He said he'd be willing to concede the race only if Senate Republicans passed the SAVE Act, a massive progressive voter ID bill that could disenfranchise millions of voters. It also happened to be Trump's top priority in Congress, so Trump decided that he too would withhold his endorsement until it was passed. But the act needed 60 votes to pass, and Republicans couldn't even get all 53 of their own senators to vote for it. The Cornyn question fell to the wayside as Trump's focus shifted to the war in Iran, so Paxton and Cornyn kept campaigning as if the runoff was still going to happen. All the while, Paxton's surrogates in the MAGA movement mounted an influence campaign in hopes of winning Trump's endorsement. When the president finally returned his attention to the primaries, it was to start his now infamous revenge tour. Trump went down the list of incumbent Republicans who had shown him disloyalty over the years, and he began to endorse their challengers. Most of those incumbents lost their seats, proving that Trump still held ultimate power over the Republican electorate. Thomas Massie, a Republican congressman who'd led the charge on releasing the Epstein files, lost a major primary race in Kentucky. And in Louisiana, right next door to Texas, Trump endorsed a challenger to the incumbent Senator Bill Cassidy. Cassidy had voted to convict Trump during his 2021 impeachment trial, and he became the first senator in 14 years to lose a primary challenge. Realizing the power that he had, Donald Trump decided to stick it to the Senate Republicans one more time. He endorsed Ken Paxton. A week later, Paxton won the runoff by 28 points. So now the stage is set in Texas for a fight between Democrats' best candidate in a generation and Republicans' worst candidate in a generation. James Talarico has either tied or led Ken Paxton in every opinion poll since he became the Democratic nominee. Real Clear Politics rates this normally safe Republican seat as a toss-up. If there was ever a Texas election that Democrats could win, it's this one. But the swing required, the sheer number of votes that have to move in order for Talarico to win, makes this race very complex and very difficult for Democrats to win. First and foremost, Talarico needs to benefit from the nationwide trend of Latino voters swinging away from Trump and rely on his social gospel politics to get him even farther than the national average. That will show up to some extent in the big three metros of the Texas Triangle, but it'll be clearest in South Texas. Talarico will need to win by a wide margin in the southern counties that swung toward Trump just 2 years ago. Next, Talarico needs to continue building his relationship with black voters in the East, particularly in the Dallas and Houston metro areas. Jasmine Crockett was right that a Democrat cannot win in Texas without massive turnout from black voters. For Talarico to win, the Dallas and Houston metro areas must go blue. Finally, Talarico needs movement from white voters, both high turnout from white liberals in his hometown of Austin, and maybe also some votes from Republican-leaning independents. He'll need big margins out of the Austin-San Antonio area, and lower than usual Republican turnout in deeply red rural Texas. With an unpopular Republican and a more palatable Democrat, it's possible that many Republicans just decide to stay home. If James Talarico can make all of those things happen, he has a shot to become the next senator for Texas. And whether he wins or loses, Talarico will boost Democratic turnout for down-ballot races in the House and state legislature, and his strategies provide a possible blueprint for Democrats across the South and West. He's not rhetorically a left-winger in the style of Bernie Sanders or AOC, but he's also not an establishment centrist. Like the old progressives he emulates, James Talarico is a sort of left populist who is more populist than left. When asked, he agrees with many key progressive policies, but he focuses on a few that have broad, non-ideological appeal. Stop the wars, fight big business, lower healthcare costs, etc. He may be more center-left than left-wing, but he seems to be closer to the average center-left American, and he takes positions on things like the war in Iran that the center-left Democratic establishment is still a little afraid to take. That should allow him to run against the unpopular Democratic leadership rather than be defined by them, but he cannot fall into the centrist trap of abandoning his ideals to reach across the aisle. His unique use of faith in his politics makes him seem more genuine, as though he really believes in what he's running on, and that sense of honesty might be his biggest strength against someone with a sleazy reputation like Ken Paxton. The worst thing Talarico can do right now is start to look like a regular politician. His campaign has a lot of work to do in order to win this election, but even if he loses, that social gospel strategy will continue on. Talarico, Trump, and Paxton could finally tip Texas into becoming a purple state, but even if Republicans hold on, this will not be the last we hear of James Talarico. Have your say in the comments. Do you think Talarico can flip Texas for the first time in a generation? Or will it be yet another Beto O'Rourke story, finishing just short once again? Does Talarico's polling lead mean Texas is finally becoming a purple state? Or is this just a fluke because of who's in the White House and who's running against him? Thanks very much to my YouTube members for your support. It means a lot and it really helps make these videos a reality. You can become a member if you'd like to support me more, and if you want maps for the elections I don't make videos about. And if you can, please follow me on Twitter or Blue Sky at the handles in the video or the links in my description. YouTube's content filters are less than stellar when it comes to political analysis, and having your voices on social media can help keep this channel running. Anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.